The fact that Zhou dared to hide the armor, privately raise 5 heavy cavalry. The fact that Zhou dared to hide the armor privately must be a conspiracy against the Yi tribe. Privately raising 50 heavy cavalry. It's understandable to hear that the young master's banditry is rampant, and he's looking after the house. This Jinchi will take another exam next year. Privately raising 500 heavy cavalry. The state capital has already clarified that the barbarians around the young master's house are in turmoil, and you are counting as a country guarding the border. It doesn't matter if you don't pass the Jinchi exam, please be a CLN. Privately raising 5,000 heavy cavalry. Your Highness joked, what kind of private raising? It is an above-board raising. You went to take the Jinchi examination just for fun. The title at home is not better than some broken Jinchi. Privately raising 50,000 heavy cavalry. The old man of the emperor has come to speak. Those corrupt Confucianists in the Ministry of Rights are messing with literature and law, so please don't take it too hard. You can choose the titles of the 6 parts at will, and you can create a new one. The emperor also said that Bai Xiao this autumn. Privately raising 500,000 heavy cavalry. I can't make it up anymore. In the history of mankind, there has never been a country/group that has owned 500,000 heavy cavalry. If there is, you have to invent the title yourself, and the kings of future generations will be proud of having this title. Oh. From the beginning of Jinchi to the cancellation of the scientific examination, there were about 100,000 Jinchi in the period of more than 1,000 years. There are currently about 3,000 district/county level administrative units in China, and each county has produced 30 Jinchi on average. Rarity of heavy cavalry. There are many subdivisions of heavy cavalry, according to the minimum standard equipment: 1 rider, 1 to 2 servants, 3 war horses, and 1 pair of armor. A village can feed about 10 to 20 heavy cavalry. About 200 people support a heavy cavalry. Don't do anything in the unified dynasties of the past dynasties. The theoretical upper limit of the number of heavy cavalry that can be supported is 500,000. Emperor Wu of the Han Dynasty once studied, and the whole country raised 500,000 war horses. If all of them were used as heavy cavalry, it would be about 150,000. Moreover, heavy cavalry is too expensive and heavy, and in most cases it does not exceed 5% of the total number of troops. Therefore, behind 50 heavy cavalry, they are no longer ordinary tyrants, and Huan Shilang of Gu City is enough. In May 1960, after reading material compiled and printed by the Investigation Department of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of China on May 15, Mao Zedong wrote 7 large characters on the material. This document informs Mr. Zhang. Consulting the Mao Zedong Chronicle also clearly recorded this matter, in an internal material compiled and printed on May 15. Liao Wenai talks about the Taiwan independence conspiracy planned by the United States, Japan, and Liao. This document notifies Mr. Zhang. This material said, Liao Wenai claimed that the person who ruled Taiwan, the United States, chose Liao, and the United States hoped to bring down Chiang Kai-shek as soon as possible. Recently, Fulbright often wrote to Liao, asking him to be ready to fly back to Taiwan at any time. When Liao held talks with Eisenhower in Paris last year, he made it clear that the road to Taiwan independence is attacking from outside and responding from within. Some people outside Japan are the core of supporting the Taiwan independence movement, and so on. Source, edited by the Central Literature Research Office, Mao Zedong Chronicle, 1949 to 1976, Volume 4, pages 406 to 407, Central Literature Publishing House 2013 edition. Obviously, the Mr. Chiang Mao Zedong mentioned in his instructions was the Chiang Kai-shek who was driven to the island of Taiwan by him. As for why Chiang Kai-shek wanted to notify Mr. Zhang of this material, it has to start with Liao Wenai in this material. Liao Wenai, a native of Yunlin County, Taiwan Province, entered Tomsui High School in Taiwan in 1925, then transferred to Dashisa Middle School in Japan, and entered Jinling University in Nanjing in 1928. In 1932, he went to the University of Michigan in the United States to study for a master's degree. After obtaining the master's degree, he transferred to the Ohio State University in the United States to study for a doctorate. In 1935, he obtained a doctorate in chemical engineering. In September 1936, Liao Wenai returned to China to serve as a professor at the Engineering College of Zhejiang University. After the victory of the anti-Japanese war in 1945, Liao Wenai was appointed as the technical director of the Industrial and Mining Division of the Taiwan Chief Executive's Office, and also served as the director of the Works Bureau of the Taipei City Government. He later resigned from the Director of Works and changed to serve as Director of Public Utilities Management Office of Taipei City. In August 1946, Liao Wenai ran for election as a member of the National Political Council of Taiwan, but Liao Wenai lost the election. 2 months later, Liao Wenai once again ran for the Constitutional National Congress, but lost again. In December 1949, he sneaked to Japan, and in 1950, he expressed the idea of Taiwan independence in Kyoto. In 1956, he claimed to be the great commander and advocated Taiwan independence. Liao Wenai's Taiwan independence words and deeds did not escape the eyes of the investigation department of the CPC Central Committee. They collected and compiled Liao Wenai's Taiwan independence remarks when he met with officials from the United States, Japan, etc., and compiled this Liao Wenai talks about the United States, Japan, and Liao's co-planned Taiwan independence conspiracy. In the materials, it also focuses on the support of relevant politicians in the United States and Japan for Liao Wenai. Among them, Fulbright was the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee of the United States Senate at the time, and the Japanese foreign minister mentioned in the article is Eiichiro Fujiyama. It is not difficult to see that the United States and Japan have always been ambitious shit-sticks on the Taiwan issue. As early as the 1950s, in the face of Chiang Kai-shek, who sang against the Taiwan independence issue, the US government had changed horse's thought. Chiang Kai-shek's firm opposition to Taiwan independence was appreciated by the Communist Party members represented by Mao Zedong, and they even believed that Chiang Kai-shek is a staunch nationalist. So here comes the question: Mao Zedong ordered notify Mr. Jiang of this matter. How should Chiang Kai-shek be notified of this matter? The public information is easy to handle. The bombardment of Kinmen has not subsided, and it is normal for loudspeakers to shout at the brothers of the National Army on Kinmen Island. As for the information that is difficult to disclose, many Democrats or Kuomintang uprising generals in the mainland at that time still had correspondence with Taiwan, such as Zhang Shizhao. In 1949, Zhang Zhaizhong, the chief representative of the Kuomintang in the peace negotiations, was currently serving as the vice chairman of the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress and vice chairman of the National Defense Commission of the People's Republic of China. He was one of Chiang Kai-shek's 8 great diamonds back then, and he had a good personal friendship with Chiang Kai-shek and Chiang Ching-kuo and his son. At critical times, Zhang Zhaizhong's letter could be sent to Chiang Kai-shek. In 1960, Zhang Zhaizhong was entrusted by Zhou Enlai to write a letter to Chiang Kai-shek. The most important point in the letter was that Taiwan would rather be placed in the hands of the Chiangs and his sons than in the hands of the Americans. Taiwan must be united with China. In addition, between the mainland and Taiwan, between Mao Zedong and Chiang Kai-shek, there is also a special messenger, Cao Juran. A student of Confucian, a friend of Mr. Lu Xun, and a well-known newspaperman in the Republic of China, in the 1950s, he had been acting as a liaison for the secret negotiations between the Kuomintang and the Communist Party. Recognized. On October 13, 1958, Mao Zedong had a special meeting with him. Cao Juran took out the letter he wrote to Chiang Kai-shek. Mao Zedong asked him first after seeing him, "Is the letter you wrote to Chiang Kai-shek true or false?" Cao Juran the answer was true, and Mao Zedong went on to say, "If it is true, then you can't write like that. Write our good first, and they won't listen. You'd better be a liberal. As long as Chiang and his son can boycott the United States, we can cooperate with him. We agree with Chiang Kai-shek's policy of keeping gold and horses. If Chiang Kai-shek withdraws gold and horses, the general situation is gone, people's hearts are shaken, and it is likely to collapse. As long as they don't get together with the United States, Taiwan, Penghu, Jin, and Matsu can all be managed by Chiang for how many years, but they must be allowed to fly, and they should not come to the mainland to serve as spies. Taiwan, Penghu, Jin, and Ma should come back, and the Jin and Ma troops should not revolt. When there is no food, we will not fire artillery, so that they can prepare enough food and ammunition. But in the future it is still possible to fight a little bit, as long as it does not cause too much damage, otherwise Chiang Kai-shek will be difficult to deal with. I would like to be lovebirds in the sky, and I would like to be connected branches in the earth. The small branches of Taiwan are connected with the big branches of the United States, and they will always be crushed, and they will become colonies or be entrusted in the future. Cao Juran asked Taiwan, if you come back, what will happen to the way of life? Mao Zedong replied, live in their own way. The fish in the water are all regional, and Moergai's fish will not work in other places. But when the United States does not want him, Chiang can come to the mainland. If he comes, it will be a great contribution and a failure for the United States. It is good for Wu Peifu not to go abroad after his failure and not to live in the concession. Our policy is to isolate the United States. It has only one way to go, and it can only be passive if it does not go. In the future, the Warsaw Talks, referring to the 136 ambassadorial talks between China and the United States between August 1, 1955 and February 20, 1970, can be changed to once a week, once every 2 weeks, or even once a month. We must tell Taiwan that we are in Warsaw and we will not discuss the Taiwan issue at all. The U.S. representative does not have Taiwan's certificate and no letter of introduction. Source, edited by the Central Literature Research Office, Mao Zedong Chronicle, 1949 to 1976, No. 3 volume, pages 464 to 465, Central Literature Publishing House, 2013 edition. Later, Mao Zedong asks Cao Juran about Chiang Kai-shek's election as president. According to the constitution, the president can only be re-elected for one term, and Chiang Kai-shek is already the third, saying why is Chiang Kai-shek no longer president? We are all pro-Chiang clique. Obviously, Cao Juran, as the messenger between the two sides of the strait, Mao Zedong had any secret news to convey to Chiang Kai-shek, this is the most appropriate candidate. Mao Zedong's anti-Taiwan independence gave Chiang Kai-shek intelligence sharing not only this time. In October 1961, the intelligence department intercepted a top-secret information Liao Wenai has sent killers from Japan and is about to arrive in Taiwan. The assassination target, Chiang Kai-shek. For the same reason, this information was quickly notified to Mr. Zhang by a special person. This incident was planned by Liao Wenai. The Taiwan independence element spot an assassin named Zheng Songtao in Japan, who graduated from the Taiwan Police Academy during the Japanese rule. In Japan, Zheng Songtao has been working as a bodyguard for Japan's dignitaries. When Liao Wenai's subordinates found him to assassinate Chiang Kai-shek, Zheng Songtao patted his chest and said loudly, give me 500 taels of gold, and you can buy Chiang Kai-shek's head. Flying from Tokyo to Taiwan, Chiang Kai-shek stepped up his vigilance after learning the information. Zheng Songtao's assassination failed and he could only return to Japan. Soon after, Zheng Songtao was pushed to the subway track by a young girl who stepped on a banana peel while riding the subway in Japan, and died on the spot. This young girl is an agent sent by the Taiwan authorities. After Liao Wenai learned of Zheng Songtao's death, he was so frightened that his liver and gallbladder burst and he was admitted to the hospital. Since then, Liao Wenai's Taiwan independence tune has become lower and lower. After Chiang Kai-shek heard the news, he sent a message to Liao Wenai, as long as he gives up Taiwan independence, he is welcome to come to Taiwan. In March 1965, Liao Wenai announced the dissolution of the United Front for Taiwan Independence. Liao Wenai himself also gave up Taiwan independence and then returned to Taiwan. It's done, it's done. Our plan to land on the moon is officially announced. Before 2030, the Chinese will land on the moon. This reminds me of two news items from 19 years ago. Japan claims that it will establish a base on the moon in 2025. The problem is, their spacecraft has not yet gone up, so what base? India claims that it launched an unmanned spacecraft to land on the moon in 2008. What is the reality? In 2019, 11 years before India's original plan, their Chandrayaan-2 took off, and lost contact when it was 2.1 kilometers away from the moon. Not to mention Russia. As for the United States, Ambitious said that it will land on the moon again in 2015, and no later than 2020. This year is already 2023, and we have witnessed history. The Americans did not board. Not only did they not board, they did not even have a shadow. Parallel to this news is our country's lunar exploration program, which will collect lunar samples back to Earth in 2020. Then we know the story. Chang'e 5, in the early morning of December 17, 2020, returned to Earth with 1,731 grams of lunar soil. This is what the Chinese people say, do what you say. Landing on the moon in 2030, we Chinese are here. I hope the name of the lunar lander is Lan Yu, in honor of the great man who wrote you can go up to 9 days to catch the moon, and go down to the 5 oceans to catch turtles. Our Chinese nation has the courage to fight bloody enemies to the end, the determination to restore old things on the basis of self-reliance, and the ability to stand on our own among the nations of the world. We Chinese, we can, we can, we can. On May 26, the China Securities Regulatory Commission announced that it had approved the establishment of Morgan Stanley Futures, China, Co. Limited. Morgan Stanley Futures is expected to become the second foreign-controlled futures company in China, and also the 151st futures company. This is the second expansion of Morgan Stanley's business after it obtained investment, securities, commercial banking, asset management, and private equity investment, and can engage in futures business. This is also the first big thing that the leader of China's newly formed State Financial Regulatory Administration took office. What are futures? Futures is a financial tool from the Western capitalist world. Like national debt, stocks, funds, wealth management, insurance, reinsurance, securities, and virtual currency, it is a regime that usurps currency issuance and circulation control and weakens currency issuance and control, a cover tool for attributes and sovereign attributes. Morgan, as the representative of the Wall Street financial oligarchy in China, is a financial fraud institution. When the US dollar is in deep crisis and the whole world is de-dollarizing, it has obtained futures and other businesses in China, and its business scope has further expanded. Of course, it is also for the hegemony of the US dollar. Another booster shot. It shows that China's pace of opening up its financial regime and sovereignty to Wall Street's financial oligarchy has not slowed down in the slightest because of the imminent bankruptcy of the US dollar's credit and hegemony. Undoubtedly, this kind of openness will allow Wall Street financial oligarchs to control China's RMB issuance and circulation rights to a higher level. To be honest, opening up China's futures business to Morgan Stanley will have a much more serious effect on controlling the issuance and circulation of China's renminbi, thereby controlling China's economy and supporting the hegemony of the US dollar, than Mabesa's giant and IPO a year ago. According to China's national security regulations, this is of course a direct infringement of China's currency and financial sovereignty. Of course, it must be immediately, thoroughly, and cleanly prohibited, and the relevant personnel must be severely punished. However, this major event of encroaching on China's monetary and financial sovereignty is naturally extremely beneficial to the survival of the US dollar hegemony, and it is also a major event that allows the US dollar hegemony to continue to parasitize the Chinese economy. Praise publicly and loudly, and dare not sneak in. A few days ago, the website of the US Department of the Treasury announced the news that China increased its holdings of $20.5 billion in national debt in March. It won't do much. But let Morgan Stanley engage in futures business in China, which will alleviate the US dollar hegemony crisis, which is much more important than increasing the holdings of $20.5 billion in treasury bonds and Jack Ma's and IPO the year before last. The former can cause a big wave of public opinion in China, but the latter is silent. How strange is Chinese public opinion? The most fundamental way to save US financial hegemony and US dollar credit should be to restore the powerful industrial system of the US and establish a cutting-edge technology system that is far higher than the industrial level of other countries, so as to control the pricing of bulk commodities around the world and monopolize the world's cutting-edge industries. In this way, the credit of the dollar can be fundamentally guaranteed and it will not collapse. But it is clear that the United States simply cannot do these things. It cannot be done in the short term, and there is no hope of doing it in the long term. Because China's high-tech industrial level is catching up and surpassing it in an all-round way, China's industrial production capacity is far stronger than that of the United States, and the United States cannot catch up overnight. If the Wall Street financial oligarchs hope to restore the advanced industrial system of the United States to support their financial hegemony and save the credit of the dollar, it is impossible to do so. The financial oligarchs are very conscious of this. Trump's Make America Great Again, that is, reindustrialization, was firmly blocked by the financial oligarchs because it was a castle in the air and impossible. How can we keep the hegemony of the dollar alive and keep the credit of the dollar from collapsing? It can only start with finding a host and expanding the scope of the host, that is, moving from Wall Street to where it is. This host can only be China, and only China's economy is large enough to expand the parasitism of the Chinese economy, that is, to expand the business scope of financial institutions in China. Taking advantage of the fact that China's financial system has not yet regained its sense of sovereignty and political power, and there are still strong comprador and dependency ideas, the US Wall Street financial oligarchs have made great efforts to capture China's financial system. Shanghai issued a license to engage in futures business for Morgan, which is a victory for this strategy. It can also be seen from this incident that the Wall Street financial oligarchs may have given up on saving the US industry. This shows that China still has financial assets such as dollar deposits, treasury bonds, futures, wealth management, funds, insurance, reinsurance, securities, and virtual currencies in the hands of other governments, enterprises, and individuals that are either bankrupt or closed, and all so-called financial assets are all returned to zero, or essentially borne by China. Recently, I have seen that American politicians are very vigorous in their diplomacy with China. On the one hand, they claim to respect China's sovereignty and put a guardrail on the relationship between the two countries. Philippines, India, Australia, and other servants, stirring up the situation around me in order to force me to surrender. However, little has been achieved. However, attempts to collude with my country's financial comprador forces to control China's monetary sovereignty and financial sovereignty, and then control my country's industrial, agricultural, and commercial systems, have repeatedly succeeded. The attempt to crack down on the RMB's international exchange rate has succeeded. The attempt to hide China's increase in holdings of U.S. Treasury bonds and distort that China is supporting the credit of the U.S. dollar has succeeded. I even suspect that the diplomatic hostility of American politicians to China may be just to divert attention. Its real focus of attack is China's renminbi issuance rights and financial sovereignty. Then, some people may ask, will this expansion of U.S. financial hegemony continue to succeed until it completely controls the Chinese economy and completely colonizes China? I don't think it's too pessimistic. I don't think the American financial oligarchs will always succeed. After all, the Chinese People's Liberation Army, the armed police, the security system and other systems, the Wall Street financial oligarchs don't have much involvement. Of course they have some involvement. The Wall Street financial oligarchs only control the publicity, education, media, public opinion, and academics in China's financial and monetary fields, so as to practice their deception and control the Chinese financial system. As long as the Chinese people see through this deception, rely on the military, police, and political forces at their disposal to completely liquidate the financial comprador forces, regain monetary sovereignty and financial sovereignty, and completely and thoroughly liquidate the international political power in terms of ideology, organization, and financial institutions. Financial capital is not difficult. Ask if you don't understand. Why isn't the mainstream media reporting on this? Ask if you don't. Recently, during his visit to China, Congo, Kinshasa, President Tshisekedi led his entourage to visit the Chairman Mao Memorial Hall. Present a flower basket to the great leader Chairman Mao, and take a group photo in front of the statue of Chairman Mao to show our respect. From the perspective of Hanyu Chuchu, this is very valuable news, which is mainly reflected in the following three aspects. 1. The President of Congo, Kinshasa, and his entourage visited the Chairman Mao Memorial Hall. This move fully shows that they respect Chairman Mao very much and sincerely cherish the memory of the great revolutionary mentor Mao Zedong. I would like to thank him for his great historical contribution to the Congo, Kinshasa, national independence and liberation movement and China-Africa friendship. 2. The President of Congo, Kinshasa, and his entourage visited the Chairman Mao Memorial Hall. This move fully shows that the people of the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, think of the source of drinking water, know how to be grateful to the great men of the world, and have not forgotten the assistance of Chairman Mao and the Chinese people. A country that knows how to be grateful is worthy of China's in-depth exchanges and cooperation, which is in line with traditional Chinese cultural values. Although their total trade volume is not as good as that of Europe and the United States, at least they have full respect and political mutual trust. There is room for sustainable development of economic and trade cooperation between the two sides, which generally benefits the countries and peoples of both sides. 3. The President of Congo, Kinshasa, and his entourage visited the Chairman Mao Memorial Hall and presented flower baskets. This move also fully shows that the people of Congo, Kinshasa, respect the Chinese people very much and are very close to China from the bottom of their feelings. The truth is not complicated. From the perspective of common people's etiquette, when a person goes to a friend's house, he will take the initiative to ask for incense to worship the friend's ancestors. This is not an ordinary friend. Without emotional accumulation, without respect, there is no way to do this. Many foreign dignitaries visit China and lay flower baskets at the monument to the people's heroes. The news is often reported by the mainstream media. This is worthy of recognition and praise, and it allows ordinary people to understand politics and the world. Foreign dignitaries pay homage to the Chairman Mao Memorial Hall, releasing the positive message that the people of the world respect Mao Zedong, the founding leader of China, which has great news value. It should also be reported and publicized, so that the Chinese people and the people of the world can see this respect, friendship, and inheritance. No long guns and short guns, no long speeches. As long as the news is reported incidentally when foreign guests lay wreaths at the monument to the people's heroes, netizens will think it is reasonable. Just one shot, one short message, one sentence, why is it so difficult to deal with? I'm a common man with no culture, so I just ask if I don't understand. Why didn't the mainstream media report the news about foreign guests visiting the Chairman Mao Memorial Hall? What is the media trying to avoid? What's the secret here? Welcome to Enlighten Me.